What's going on, everybody? Thank you for tuning into another Fantasy Life DraftKings Best Ball stream. I'm your host, Ian Hartitz, and joining me on this lovely Friday morning, the one, the only Fantasy Life Director of Analytics, Dwain The Rock McFarland. Dwain, drafts live. You're picking 7. I'm picking 8. What can go wrong?
Nothing can go wrong. I feel a few snipes coming,
Maybe.
We'll see what happens.
Maybe a few.
Maybe not.
Hello, Miguel. Good morning, everyone. It is, early for some of us. Dwain, I know you love to sleep in on Fridays as much as I do.
Actually, I don't mind sleeping in on Fridays. I am with you, actually. Doesn't always happen, but
Sun God going 102. Early start. Some might say irresponsible. Some might say contrarian, Dwain.
I mean, look, in a full PPR 3 wide receiver league,
not ridiculous.
Yeah, it's not ridiculous. If you're trying to mix up different combinations, you're getting up top. I get it.
I will say, man, I know we've had a lot of discussions on Justin Jefferson, but I'm getting more and more worried that we look up after week 1. He has 19 targets, and we're just like, why did we even consider taking? I know we're only taking 4 wide receivers ahead of him anyway, so I don't want to act like we're not drafting the guy, but it is Justin Jefferson. That's what I keep coming back to.
It is Justin Jefferson. You're not lying.
All right, Dwain, you're on the clock. What are you doing?
Take Bijan.
All right. Well, in that case, I'll take AJ freaking Brown. How about that?
Go for it.
Well, maybe the wide receiver 1 this year. It's technically possible. All I'm saying. Maybe it was because I made some AJ Brown highlights yesterday, but
dude,
I'm drafting AJ over Puka. I don't care.
Yeah, no, I think there is a chance. We've got the potential for more passing with Kellen Moore. I think it's going to be kept in check. We're not going to see Chargers levels, but there's also, a chance for much better scheming. We had an offense that was very stagnant last year, didn't use motion, all those different things. You're going to now get all of that. Imagine a world where AJ Brown gets to do a lot of the things that Tyreek Hill gets to do right before the snap. And if you just look at AJ Brown and his talent profile, period, his target earning ability, yards per route run, all the different things, right, that we look at to try to triangulate and just figure out how good are ththese guys. Obviously, there's context to all of them that you've got to work through.
Yeah.
But look, AJB's he's right there with all the guys. He you hear me talk about the heat maps, and I put them in our rankings and tiers articles so people can see what we're talking about. It's dark blue across the board, just like CeeDee Lamb, just like Tyreek Hill. I mean, AJ Brown, if he goes full beast mode, has more upside than Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yeah.
Right? Because AJ Brown could get 2,000 receiving yards. That's going to be a major task for Amon. We love our Sun God, but he doesn't have the big play after catch ability that AJ Brown has. He's a playmaker, St. Brown is, but not at the same level. So yeah, I love AJB. I love the Eagles offense. I think, an easy way to think about your draft is just to draft a lot of freaking Eagles.
Appreciate the shout out, David. That's right. Our premium package will have you guys ready to go. Season long DFS, best ball, whatever it is that you are into. So still plenty of free content and all the podcasts and stuff. We'll get you ready there as well. But again, looking for that extra step, draft champion projections and things of that nature. As David said, we agree. Think it is a great value. So appreciate you hanging with us, David. I'm about to be back on the clock and getting Drake London falling to me in the itsy bitsy parts of round 2. Always sounds good to me. So Drake London, someone, Dwain, where really got to kind of get at that turn over on other best ball sites. But the more we kind of start getting into it, again, I know I see some people why are you using ESPN ADPs for some of the discussion? And because they are seemingly so bad. And it's we got to move to the redraft world eventually, guys. So I know they're bad, but we're using them. So you know what? If they're going to be bad, we're going to take advantage of them. And accordingly, Drake London really is one of the bigger, just surprise values who he's regularly available in round 3 in some of those redraft leagues. So just something to keep in mind, again, as we go through these different sites, can be very, very different. But Dwain, if I wasn't going to go Drake, probably would have gone with who you got, Nico Collins.
Yeah, I was having some technical difficulties. I don't know what's happening, but my DraftKings app or the site froze up on my computer, so I had to go to the phone. And I was happy that when I got there, I just saw Nico at the top of the queue, so I was nothing too bad can happen, with Nico Collins sitting at the top of my queue. But I just wanted to make sure, the big thing is structurally, I wanted to make sure there wasn't somehow a running back at the top of my queue after I already took Bijan in the first round. and a 3 wide receiver draft full PPR. So had to sweat for a second.
Rule number 1 of fantasy football: no excuses. Draft like a champion. Dwayne, just keep in mind. Rounding the round 2 part of things, I went wide receiver, AJB and Drake London. D Mac 1977 over here. Some might say 1977. Going with Bijan and Nico to start off. So again, Dwayne and I made one of our more useless arguments of the offseason: Bijan Robinson versus Breece Hall. And look who you end up taking, Dwayne, when it comes down to it. Mr. Breece Hall supporter, but then we're in a draft and you take Bijan. Funny how that works.
Yeah, I mean, it works that way because I want to make sure I draft both, like I told everybody. If I draft Breece Hall first every time, then I never get Bijan. They're in the same tier, though, to your point. Like, I really don't care which way someone goes on the argument. I think they're 2 elite, alpha, supreme beings that are entering their prime year, and we're probably going to get amazing results from them for the next 2 to 3 seasons. Will you be surprised if next year Bijan Robinson or Breece Hall is the first pick in fantasy? I won't. My bet is it is one of them, one of those 2, and they might be going 1 and 2. So yeah, I think getting them in the middle of the first round this year is a gift. There are drafts where they fall to the end of the first round. You just have to be careful structurally. Oh, look at team 1, man. Like says, I don't care that I play in a PPR. I don't care that I play in a 3 wide receiver format. We'll just go CMC, Achane, and Kyron Williams.
I liked CMC, Achane, but then we got to go to wide receiver. Okay. We got a little bit too cute there. CMC, Achane, that's a freaking ballsy start. Okay, I can wrap my head around that, but then adding Kyron onto that, that's where it gets a little bit tougher. Question from Miguel in the chat. Guys, keep sending them in the chat. As much as we love drafting, we love answering your questions even more. What are the best tips or advice for drafting and redraft? I know it's best ball time, but have you ever used the same strategy for redraft? So certainly majority of drafts we've done to this point in the offseason have been best ball, but I know Dwayne and I were texting earlier this week about getting back in some of them high stakes redraft, formats. So definitely going to have more tangible, I think, things to say about that here very soon. But more than anything, again, it's just really recognizing the league you're in, the scoring, the rules, and all that. I mean, what Dwayne was saying just a minute ago about DraftKings being full PPR, 3 wide receivers versus 2 can make a big difference with how you are addressing the early rounds. So in general, again, just would try to go through the site's ADP before you're drafting and stuff. And, yeah, usually I do tend to still only go 1 or 2 running backs inside the first 6, 7 rounds, kind of regardless. But yeah, just some minor tweaks. We'll get Dwayne's thoughts on it as soon as he is done here. I try to be better about not throwing him a question as soon as he gets on the clock, because while I try to be a good host, I try to be an even better friend. So Dwayne, thoughts on redraft strategy in the year 2024?
Well, I think there's certainly elements of best ball that you should be applying to redraft. I think it's interesting. I think we learn from all the different styles of fantasy we play, and we can apply those to the different styles that we play. For example, with Dynasty, I learned so much about prospects. I learned so much about age and all those things. It forced me to think about all those things more critically, right? And so that added to my redraft game. Well, then I think with best ball, one of the big things that's come out of it, Ian, is thinking about how to structurally draft your teams. No, not thinking about week 17 correlation, but really getting more players to think about, okay, I've allocated a large amount of my draft capital to these positions early, so I really need to focus on these other positions late. It seems like common sense, but there are tough spots in drafts where you're like, man, this guy's a great ADP value versus what my team needs is this other thing. And it's those critical points in your draft that ultimately are going to decide how you really feel about your team at the end of it. Yes, you're going to go in with your player takes, the guys you want, but I do think that best ball, the biggest lessons you can take is thinking about how you're allocating your capital. The other thing is it really makes people think a lot more about ADP and where players go and not just their ranks. And that's something you should be doing as well. And we've got some great tools over at Fantasy Life Plus that you can use to look at all the ADPs from the different sites, because you want to game it, as much as you can. Now, I get it. Those ADPs are not as accurate as some of these. So you want to be careful. Sometimes you just got to make sure you get your guys, but as much as you can, even though you may like Drake London more than Marvin Harrison, like in Ian's case, if he knows he takes Marvin Harrison first and that gives him a 90% chance to also get Drake London as well, well, then you probably take Marv, right? You take Marv first and still hope you get Drake London. Versus if you take Drake London, there's only a 10% chance you get Marv coming back. So I think those are all things you should be thinking about no matter what style you're playing.
I got sniped on Jalen Hurts with my AJB, but that's okay. Maybe trying to set up another dual threat quarterback here later after I took Michael Pittman Jr. Dwain takes Tank Dell, who was going to be next on my list. So rolling heavy into round 4. Shout out Matt, wondering how high Marvin Jones's ADP might be by the end of training camp. How many weeks did he even last on the Jaguars last year? That was such a short experience there. But prime Marvin Jones, man, absolute baller out there. So maybe, just maybe, late round.
Early in Cincinnati, definitely had a major baller year, and then had about a 3-season stretch in Detroit. Yeah, I mean,
Stafford, man, 50-50
just
balls.
Man, elite body control.
Yeah,
like in the air, like, and he's pretty thin framed guy, but was really tough. He was the opposite of Mike Williams. Like he would take those hard falls, but make them look more graceful. And even though it was a lot, wasn't as thick, like he would much more often pop up, right, and not be hurt. And I'm not trying to knock your one true king, Mike Williams, who you always get on to me about. Great contestant. I'm not taking away from him. I'm just saying Marvin Jones, like even being smaller frame, still had a lot of that, like to his game.
They both would make the catch, but yes, one would certainly come down a bit rougher than the other one. Matthew's wondering, he grabbed Lamar in a draft last night, and then Kyler fell 24 spots past ADP, so I grabbed him too. Good or bad move? Personally, man, when you see someone like going 24 picks past ADP inside the first 10 rounds, I think it's a great move to grab because you're just getting a differently structural lineup. It's just going to be different because he doesn't usually fall past 24 picks. So I'm assuming you didn't have Marv, didn't have McBride, but in Kyler's case, man, you probably were still able to get at least a smaller stack going later with Michael Wilson and our one true short king, Greg Dortch. So again, Dwayne, like had Lamar, I'm sure he wasn't prioritizing Kyler, but 24 spots ADP, man, I feel like that's the sort of jump where you should go for it. 10, 12, I probably still wouldn't even go out of my way, but 24, to me, that's worth it.
Yeah, and it's still ultimately, I do care what the rest of my roster looks like, right? Like, let's say for whatever reason, I had taken 2 running backs in the first 3 rounds, and I had already grabbed my first quarterback as well. Well, then you could be in a crunch for receivers if you're in a 3 wide receiver, league with full PPR. So, I mean, there are cases where I might still go ahead and pass the onesie position. I almost never pass that sort of drop if it's a wide receiver or running back, right? They can get into my flex spot. The quarterback, it is a little bit different, and that is the position, quite honestly, that you will see fall. And team 3 takes Patrick Mahomes and CJ Stroud. So there goes my Houston stack.
Well, Dwayne, at least they already had a lot of Texans on the team. Oh, wait,
yeah,
they had none. So,
man. I will say, like, and it's not to bash on Circus Kitty. Like, that's actually a really good name, Circus Kitty. That's a lot better than DMAC 1977, I have to say. That's like on another level. That's a move you never want to make in these leagues. Like, I think that's a death blow to your team, Mahomes and Stroud, when given the roster requirements and the fact that you can only play one of those guys.
It looked great. Had Kelsey and Mahomes, the turn. Good job. Ayuk and Hill, first 2 rounds. Love it. Did not need Stroud there. Matthew did get Dortch, got sniped on Michael Wilson, so Zay Jones in the last round. Zay Jones could end up being a bigger factor. I mean, I don't want to completely write him out, but he was legitimately one of the worst wide receivers in the NFL last year. Didn't get all that much money, but last round pick. Come on down, the real QB1, Anthony Richardson. Got the Michael Pittman stack. Got the Malik Neighbors bring back too, Dwayne. We were feeling good early.
Yeah. You take Richardson a ton. I love Richardson and I take him. But I don't take him near as much as you. Like, I just love leaving myself open for like the QB values. But if there is a guy I'm taking, like Richardson's definitely the one.
We talk about elite tight ends as these tight ends where, okay, great. Once you get them, you only need to draft one more tight end. I think Richardson fits that mold as well, man. And I'm not saying you can't do it with because, like, okay, if you get Dak and Jordan Love, I think that's fine. But with Richardson now, I mean, if I go Richardson and freaking Kirk Cousins, or even if I really want to get gross and go Daniel Jones, I mean, once you just have that one true elite one, like, where would you cut that off, Dwayne? Would you cut it off at Richardson, or were you even fine with Burrow and Kyler, where it's like,
well, in a redraft, I'm fine with anybody that you just named. I mean, obviously the last few years have shown us that we may want to think more about having a backup quarterback on our roster than maybe what we have historically, just because so many more are getting drafted. But overall, like, yeah, I'm fine with any of those. Like, if you're talking best ball, where I don't really need to address the position again until late, it's also that same group, of players that you just mentioned. Again, like the more draft capital you spend up top, the less you should spend later. It doesn't mean, like, to your point, if a certain value comes your way and it makes sense for your team, that you shouldn't take it. But overall, like, you're going to have to prioritize other positions if you spend that high pick on QB.
Alvin Kamara, Hollywood Brown off the board, coming back to me in round 6 here. Still no running backs for your boy. Looks like me and Jake B, Zimmy 12. There's a couple of us still, holding out hope that we can get the 0 RB trend going. Not Mama Jamas, though, who had to add on James Cook in round 5 after already getting 3 absolute monsters. So Rashee Rice off the board, 1 spot before me. Was looking at that. I think now that he is gone, I am going to go with the running back. I haven't been taking much of them, but I think in this build and full PPR, it makes some sense. Aaron Jones, come on down. Dwain, I'm going to let you pick, and then I want you to talk about Aaron Jones a little bit because I did see you were going through it. But first, before that, Dwain, I want to give a quick shout out to the people making this possible, none other than DraftKings Sportsbook. That's right. Appreciate one of our lovely partners, and we have partnered with DraftKings Sportsbook. Right now, all new customers who bet just $5 will get $150 in bonus bets instantly. All you got to do is download the DraftKings app now and sign up using our promo code Fantasy Life. Again, guys, you can bet just $5 on anything and get $150 back in bonus bets instantly. Sports betting is not yet available in your state. Don't worry. You can be like Dwain and I right here and play some best ball goodness, because DraftKings is the one-stop shop for all things daily fantasy and best ball as well. We can join in on all the fun and have a shot to win cash prizes. So again, guys, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. New customers use our promo code Fantasy Life and bet just $5 on any wager and get $150 back in bonus bets instantly. DraftKings, the crown is yours. All right, Dwayne, gave you a question, cut you off, just, hosting 101 over here. But Aaron Jones, overall thoughts, and, how he is as a round 6, round 7 running back.
Well, I mean, look, he's going to his age 30 season, essentially. So, I mean, he's definitely getting up there in age. That's a concern. Running back, like, the sweet spot is essentially age 23 to 27. The prime years are 24, or 23 to 25. Like, it's everything's like earlier than what you're used to for wide receivers and running backs. But I mean, he goes to Minnesota. I'm not crazy, about that offense, but I do think they're going to lean on the run more. And if you look at what Aaron Jones has done when given at least 60% of the snaps over the last, couple of seasons, not going way back, just, because I mean, obviously he's getting older. I mean, it's a guy that still, can put up 16 and a half, 17 and a half fantasy points per game in a PPR league. Now, does that all come crumbling down? Is it a different scenario when dealing with the Vikings? Looking at their offensive line, it graded out better than what it looked like when you watched Alexander Madison last year just getting blown up. The PFF gave him a decent grade. So I feel like there's some things to like. And Ty Chandler, as much as he was good last year, and a lot of people talk about how much Kevin O'Connell loves Ty Chandler. Like, my question is, does he really? Does he really? Or, I mean, he's kind of forced to use Ty Chandler. I mean, Cam Akers, wasn't available later. You tried to make the trade for him, but, obviously had not been what he was since the Achilles. You had Alexander Madison, who was terrible. You had injuries going on. Like, I think you were kind of forced to use Ty Chandler. Now, to be fair to Ty Chandler, like, did he step up and do what he needed to do? Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like, he did. Okay, what are we doing here?
Sorry you got sniped, Dwayne. I know you wanted Aaron Rodgers there. That wasn't even the Garrett Wilson team.
I'm kind of thrown off.
Maybe that's a strategy. Take Aaron Rodgers in round 7 just to throw off the rest of the people. Oh, James Conner. Good pick, you SOB.
Yeah, I'm like the Aaron Rodgers pick just like threw me for a loop.
That's hilarious.
I don't know what's happening. Right. Is this real? Anyway, Aaron Jones, look, I don't want to draft him a bunch, Ian, but if I'm playing in best ball, like, I want exposure. There's a tier of these guys, right? And we don't know for sure which ones, but you've got, think about it, these guys that are past their prime. You've got Joe Mixon. You've got Aaron Jones. I just took one of them, James Conner. Who's the name that I'm missing? The other one that I'm missing. Anyway, there's 4 main guys. Alvin Kamara is the other one. Like, they're not all going to perform well this year. Probably 2 of those are going to be flat out busts. Like it's just going to, the cliff's going to hit and we're going to go, well, that sucked. But I think that, you got to take into account like where these guys landed.
Yeah.
With most of them, a lot of them obviously moving teams with Aaron Jones and with Mixon. And there's just not a lot of depth chart competition on either team. So I think both of them have a chance to perform. And the big thing with Aaron Jones, man, is his ability in the receiving game. And for whatever reason, Green Bay just never fully was willing to embrace and unlock that. Yeah. And maybe Kevin O'Connell will.
Hawkinson could be missing the first chunk of the season. Jordan Addison can't drive slow, so maybe he'll be missing some time. I mean, Aaron Jones, we could look up and say, oh, man, he's the number 2 behind Justin Jefferson, at least for an early portion of the season. So, Dwayne, Dave's wondering your rationale of taking Keenan Allen over Chris Godwin. I do agree with it, but why did you do that? Good sir.
Well, I think it's close. Number 1, Keenan Allen was past ADP here, so that's who I want. But, I mean, Keenan Allen had over a 30% target share last season. Chris Godwin was 24, 25%. I like both players. I just feel like Keenan Allen, he's been a wide receiver 1, on a per game basis for like 9 years straight. So it's just kind of like in a PPR format, like just give me Keenan Allen. He is getting old. So there's definitely like, some dust accumulating there.
I will say though, Godwin his yards per route run stuff has gone from very much, elite to really average ever since that 2021 ACL injury. And, I was with the Roto World guys yesterday previewing the NFC South. And I just, Dwayne, I told you a team, man, I think if they had lost that last week 18 game and missed the playoffs, they end up beating the Panthers 9-0. I think they literally would have reset the whole team. Baker doesn't get the contract and, they wouldn't have re-signed the defensive veterans. This team seemed like they were so close to just blowing it up, starting over from, square one. And then guess what? They managed to get a playoff, victory over a dead in the water Eagles team. Baker looked good against 2 pretty horrific secondaries. I just think this is classic. Team overachieved a little bit, and now they're trying to run it back. And in reality, we're looking at a very, very mediocre football team overall. So could be wrong. I mean, I was surprised, previewing the Buccaneers that the target discrepancy was as close as it was. I mean, you would have thought based on the numbers, Evans was the clear number 1, but in reality, he had 136 targets and Godwin did have 130. So we'll see what happens there. But I also would have been with Keenan. I went ahead and took Jaylen Warren just a little bit ahead of ADP, but you know what? Compared to some of these other guys, I do think he has the higher ceiling, particularly in a full PPR format. Right after me, Dwayne goes with Jonathan Brooks. RB3, Dwayne, I think that's the sweet spot for when Jonathan Brooks makes a lot of sense. I was looking at him too, but only having one running back, I wasn't quite as willing to pull the trigger.
Yeah, for me with Brooks, like James Conner is the bet on the beginning of the season. Jonathan Brooks is my bet on the second half of the season.
There you go.
If both of them work out, fantastic. That's even better. But like Brooks is just a guy you're going to have to probably deal with, like maybe games he doesn't play early in the season, games where he's getting, 30% snap share. I totally see it being something they're easing him in. Mm-hmm. But I also see by like week 7 or 8, we start, we're doing our Sunday night show and we're like, man, Jonathan Brooks, like 55% snap share. And like, even 90% of what he is, I think that's going to equal big fantasy performances. If you look at the Fantasy Life utilization or not utilization, look at the Fantasy Life rookie supermodel. I got so much cool stuff, guys. Utilization, supermodel, projections, rankings. But whenever you look at what he did, 71% of those guys posted a top 24 finish in their first 2 seasons. Almost half of them, or a little under half of them, right at 40%, posted a top 12 running back season in their first 2 seasons. So just looking at that depth chart, not to bash Chuba Hubbard or anything, but I think this is clearly, a huge opportunity for Jonathan Brooks. And they majorly upgraded, man, on their offensive line. So, I mean, this is an offensive line that added, Robert Hunt, and then they also added Damian Lewis. So, like, how much did they invest between those 2 guys? A ton. And they're 2 guards. So
yeah, it was a ton.
I think a much improved offensive line. You got Dave Canales coming there, and he's already been in the media saying, I want to prove to you how stubborn I can be with the run game. So look, it's just a massively improved offense for the Panthers. I want to take a bet on. Then I followed that up with Jaden Daniels. I've got that with Terry McLaurin for the stack. I get the week 17 correlation with Bijan Robinson with Atlanta, but once Richardson's gone off the board and then Kyler goes, like the last of its kind, dual threat, huge, massive upside QBs, it's Jaden Daniels or bust. right? I mean, you could argue Deshaun Watson, a little tier below that, and then you could argue Justin Fields last round, like if you're just, hoping he gets on the field by the end of the season. But the guy that's playing right now that could rush for 700 yards is Jaden Daniels. Like that's the last guy in my opinion. So, and I also get to stack it. So yeah, love it.
Kyler.
Feeling good about the squad, man.
Yeah, man, it's looking good. You should be feeling good about it. I took Dallas Goedert right after. Really, that is where I think the tight end position kind of breaks, bad a little bit there after he is out of the picture. So, again, would have been cool if I was able to get Jalen Hurts earlier, then I could have had the full Eagle stack going on. But as it is, still got, two pieces of what I expect to be a pretty good passing game. We'll see if we can't get a Cowboy bring back here at some point later on in the draft. So, heading heavy now into round 10, Nick Chubb off the board. Can't believe some of the redraft ADPs with Chubb in the top 100. And I sent out a tweet about some of the, guys that are actually going after Nick Chubb, thinking that everyone was to be like, yeah, wow, Ian, that is wild. Great point. Instead, I got a lot of people, Dwain, saying, what's the problem here with Nick Chubb going to the top 100? So yes, there are still some believers out there. So while I did not think I needed to specify, that he is a fade, yeah, guys, he is a fade as a top 100 pick for sure. But, great story if it does work out for him. I am back on the clock. I need a running back more than I need Brandon Cooks' old ass. Full PPR. Give me old man Eckler. He's a little bit more past
He's
ADP.
Past ADP. It's like if you're going to take Eckler. Look, Eckler 2 seasons ago scored 22 freaking fantasy points per game in a PPR. And it's like none of you even care. Look, yeah, he is old. Yeah. And I get it. And typically you shouldn't expect Austin Eckler to score that many points, like obviously. But like, is there a chance he comes in and definitely, gets the receiving down work and forces like a 50-50 timeshare with the guy that I'm about to take? Yeah, I mean, there is.
I'll tell you what, Dwayne, I've also liked, obviously I didn't make it possible for you here, but when I have gotten Terry and Jaden, I like Eckler as my second, stack partner because of what he can bring in the receiving area. QB running back stacks, I know something that we're not always trying to go out of our way for, but when there's
certain ones that you should.
Yeah. So, and yeah, guys, we all saw the run against the Packers. He hit 13 miles per hour. Just go back, watch those highlights week 1 against the Dolphins when he was hitting, over 20 miles per hour and, putting up big time points before he freaking suffered a high ankle sprain in week 1 of the season. So am I only saying good things about Eckler because I just drafted him? Yeah, but that's how, fantasy football works. So from Matthew, again, chat, holla with anything you guys want to know. Any year 2 or 3 players who graded well in the supermodel but haven't broken out, at least not yet, Dwayne. So maybe just a player or two who you're still keeping a candle on for.
Well, I mean, Marvin Mims did well in it. Yeah, so he's a guy that clearly has another opportunity this year. A lot of questions, in Denver. 1 sec, because I'm about to be picking here. So
no, it's fair.
Got to figure out.
Marvin Mims is the one Broncos wide receiver that I have been more so willing to, put a chip on, especially later in drafts. You kind of hear you've heard Sean Payton this offseason basically say how they almost feel like they held him back a bit last year because they wanted to get Sutton and Judy, plenty involved. Pat Frymouth, that would have been potentially Dwayne's pick. Definitely would have been on the board for mine as well. Really where the tight end landscape starts to fall off is at this point with Schultz also off the board. But Cortland Sutton, Ape. Yeah, I hear you, man. He's going, around wide receiver. Okay, now I'm on the clock. Dwayne, take it back.
Yeah, I was actually going to just, if I can get my computer's running a little slow, but if I can get it to pull up, I was going to pull up the supermodel and talk about some of those guys. So yeah, I'm going over to it now. It's under Dynasty, if you guys want to find it. And then you go to models. And then you just click on which model you want, running back, wide receiver. So just looking at it, and you can sort it by how you want year or whatever, but just looking at, I'm going to go look at 2023 because obviously 2024 players haven't played yet. Zach Charbonnet, man, that's a guy we've talked about a lot, Ian. Zach Charbonnet scored really well not really well. He scored well in the model, but it's a guy that's a dual threat player. The trick for Zach Charbonnet is he's stuck with another young player that's pretty good in Kenneth Walker, right? They both essentially have the same draft capital as second round players, but I definitely feel like Charbonnet is a guy that if for some reason Kenneth Walker went down, you would feel really good about having in your fantasy lineups. Kendre Miller is another one. Wrote about him yesterday And the running back tiers, which dropped on the site this morning, you guys can go check those out for free. I break down everything. I break down the player's historical ability to handle volume, their efficiency, their team environment, as well as their age, and put all that together. And then I tier them for you based on all those criteria. And Kendre Miller is another guy that, like, he didn't score great in the model, but scored pretty well. And if you look at what Clint Kubiak is going to bring to that team, Ian, I think we'll see a lot more under center play this year from Derek Carr. And if you're going to try to go to that kind of run game, so remember, Clint Kubiak, he ran the second most under center snaps with the Vikings whenever he was their coordinator in 2022. Last year, where was he? He was with the 49ers, who also like to run a lot of under center stuff. I don't know that Alvin Kamara at this stage in his career is going to be the best fit for that kind of offense. I think Alvin Kamara is going to remain the primary passing down back and get some of the early down work in, but it won't surprise me, man. I think there's a real chance that Kendre Miller could have some major upside with where he's going right now in drafts.
All right. You know what? You sold me, Dwain. Give me Kendre Miller.
Do it.
I was between him and Marshawn Lloyd. I see Matt saying me passing on Tajay for Eckler hurt his heart. I'm sorry for hurting your heart, Matt. It was a toss-up. I was between them two, and honestly just had a little bit of correlation going on with my Drake London pick earlier. So that, and then Eckler being, a bit more past ADP was enough for me there. But if you want to take Tajay over Eckler, man, I'm not going to overly disagree with you there at all. So Dwain takes Marshawn Lloyd. That's who I was between there.
Dear God.
Watson.
I set up the whole reason I took Judy is I know Watson falls, and I wanted another receiver.
Not in this draft.
No, not in this draft. Not in this draft. I mean, which is fine.
That's the Rodgers team too.
Yeah, so a major reach again by Lamore. So it's okay. These kind of drafts, like, you just have to embrace them because you just have to stop and think, okay, what are the other things that are falling to you here? Like, what are the other things that you're able to get because these people are taking so many quarterbacks?
Tight end plan, Dwain, at this point in the draft, you taking 3 or 4? I
mean, I'm going to have to. Yeah. The problem is every time it gets to my pick, I don't like any of the tight ends.
Yeah, that's I need a second one. I had the exact same thought process. Like, no. Okay, moving on.
Yeah. I'm not excited, about the tight ends right now. So, but I do have a plan. Have a plan.
Always got a plan, no matter how bad it's going, man. We always.
No matter if the plan sucks or not, I've got
one. From our guy Joe, who I don't even know why we're still drafting, man. I think Joe took first place last time we did this, but
yeah, is Joe in here again, like just crushing us again? No,
he's not. I checked.
Thanks for staying out of this one, Joe. Let us guys have something here too.
These drafts make me feel like Dwayne's Lois Griffin going to get the mail, and every other drafter is Peter Griffin sitting upstairs in the window with a sniper rifle aimed at her. Not wrong, Joe. Not wrong. It's been a fun one though. I'm feeling good about the squad. We've gotten sniped a few times for sure, but again, I think some of the audacity of these drafters, man, triple quarterback builds when they're just not necessary. You took Mahomes, Stroud, and why do you still need Caleb Williams? Why? Do you even have a bear? No.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, man. Baker Mayfield to the Watson Rodgers team. Goodness gracious. Okay. In full PPR, I'm going to take my guy, Josh Downs. Already got Richardson and Pittman. Was looking at Adonai Mitchell before. I think this kind of Downs going a full round and a half plus past 80 Mitchell, I don't think is right at all, particularly full PPR where Downs could easily be more of that target hog guy. So, Richardson might very well be the sort of quarterback you don't actually need to actually draft 2 sort of stacking partners with. But I do believe in Downs, the talent, and to see him falling just a little bit, I am fine with him in this area. Really hoping a certain rookie first round pick who, Dwayne has mocked me a bit for my adoration of, I call him.
He should have actually been my pick. I messed it up. Just because the other player I just took bye week, same week as my starting quarterback.
Oh, yeah.
Week 14.
Bye weeks don't matter, bro. Don't worry about them.
Well, yeah, they're tiebreakers.
I pay attention to them until I forget to pay attention to them, and then I just convince myself that they don't matter and that everything is fine. So
I have to give all the streamers that do so many of these drafts credit, like keeping your focus, talking through things, and then also drafting really good teams. It's a talent. I feel like my wife would probably be better at this than me. My wife's like an amazing multitasker. Like I need like intense bursts of focus on things, and then I go to the next thing. Like she can be doing two things at once, which like just shouldn't be possible. And I've read those articles that multitasking is, it's a myth. It's not really possible. And I'm like, yeah, right. It's not. And then I watch my wife and I'm like, but she does it. So yeah.
Checking out some of the available players briefly, but we had Taysom Hill go off the board. Remember, guys, he is tight end eligible on DraftKings. So I actually like that. Like that is the good spot for Taysom. And as Dwain brought up on our Saints team preview podcast, with Jameis out of town, it's a bit more realistic this time around that he actually could be QB2 behind Derek Carr. So I know Spencer Rattler, Hive. I'm not saying it's a guarantee or anything like that, but certainly, feeling better about the chance for him to get that, QB start with the tight end eligibility than he had last year. You weren't getting him. I was taking him.
I know. I was for you.
Oh yeah, I bet, dude.
No, you already told me you were taking him.
Okay, I do not need to reach on him just yet. Ooh, yeah, that's gonna work. Tyler Algier, one of the best handcuffs. Come on down. Continuing to build out some Falcons, Washington goodness, and I knew that Dwain probably wasn't going to be taking him. So, congrats on the round 14 fullback, Dwain.
Yeah, man. I love round 14 fullback. That's my favorite thing. No, seriously, like I don't take a ton of Ben Sinnott, but like if there's a build where I'm doing it,
yeah,
like I want it to be the best possible Ben Sinnott team ever made, which would mean like in this scenario, he goes bonkers. I waited on tight end. I've got Jaden Daniels, Terry McLaurin. I've got it set up with Bijan Robinson. This is the kind of team where I want to do it. Yeah. And the other thing is like, he's going to have a really good chance to be scoring fantasy points in the playoffs. I don't think early season is going to be very good to Ben Sinnott. I'm just going to come out and say it. I think we could be looking at some really rough weeks early in the season. So not a guy that makes a lot of my builds, but I definitely think that there is upside, once we get to, the latter portion of the season, especially if the Commanders are struggling and they're ready just to see what they have in these guys. So there's also a chance that Cliff Kingsbury looks back on his time and thinks just, why the hell did I hold Trey McBride back? Should I do this as well? And not to say Sanatt's the same prospect, but I mean, Cliff Kingsbury has to look back at that and think, had I just put Trey McBride out there sooner with a good quarterback, maybe I would still have my job. I don't know.
That's one way of looking at it. The other way could be he benched Trey McBride for Zach Ertz, who is now also on Washington. So maybe he'll do it again. But to Dwayne's point, maybe that's,
I really wish you wouldn't say shit like that out loud.
Maybe Cliff went to Thailand just the entire time, sitting by the pool or doing whatever you do in Thailand. He was just like, man, why did I hold back Trey McBride? I could still be in sunshine, Arizona right now. So I am hopeful that a certain number one overall pick from a recent draft makes it 2 more slots to me. While I normally in a situation like this,
wait, I'll take him. I'll say his name out loud.
Shut your mouth. Why normally I'm taking him a little bit ahead of ADP, but
this guy here's taking a quarterback. Don't worry.
Yeah, Jesus. Seeing how again, I was kind of scrolling up before, and this team, who is it? Omar only has one quarterback. It's Purdy, so he seems, ripe for needing another one soon. He took Xavier Leggett before, so fully expecting him to take Bryce Young. If I don't, maybe Dwayne does it just for fun. But
nah.
Yeah, thank you, bro. I would have traveled to Texas just to beat your ass. Bryce Young, come on down. There we go. Would have been cooler if I had the Leggett part of it too, but we already got Deontay earlier, so we're feeling good.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was actually my biggest mistake so far in the draft. Polk should have been Leggett, undoubtedly. And then, because that would have set me up for the Bryce Young.
You can still get Drake.
Yeah, I know, but it's week 14 bye, so I'm just less excited about it. That the other way would have been perfect because I have the different bye weeks. So
Justin Herbert goes in this round. Justin Herbert went round 12, big dog, but all good. Matthew saying the wildest draft he's seen all year. It's been a wild one, man. Just a couple select teams choosing to go rogue, but you know what? We'll see how it works out for him. I'm not the biggest fan of a couple of these squads, but I guess we'll find out in December, Dwayne. That's how fantasy.
There's definitely major dead money on the table in this draft. I can immediately rule out 4 teams. which you can't normally do. Like,
Yeah.
and I mean, I'm not trying to trash the other drafters, but like, it's just facts. Like the data tells us this. You can't draft these structures and expect for things to work out all hunky dory for you. So hunky
Okay.
dory. Who even says that? Like a
On
guy with
the
1977 after his name. That's who.
on the turn, Gino, Danny Dimes, and Russell Wilson. We got some correlation with that, perhaps. DK for Gino. Naked Dimes. I don't even see Pickens. And we got Najee, I guess.
Well, I think it was also just because the quarterbacks are getting pushed up right here because
right.
so many people took 3 early. And
Oh, sorry, Dwain. That sucks.
I already knew that was happening. So I was prepared.
I need another tight end. Noah Fant. Come on down. I just think he's really good at football. Correlation's overrated when I say it's overrated. What you doing, Dwain?
Well, I wanted to go Bo Nix, but I can't. Same bye week because I could still potentially stack a player. So I have to go with an uncorrelated.
Ooh, backup quarterback.
Uncorrelated backup quarterback. Yeah, it's not ideal.
It looks like,
but it's the nature of this draft.
Gotta roll with the punches sometimes. So if you look at the Vikings, we know O'Connell has said that Darnold is going to be starting off the season, but I got to do a podcast with Mr. Collar, which was always a treat. And if you do look at their schedule at the Giants, okay, they probably get that win, but then 49ers, Texans, Packers, Jets, like this team could easily be 1-4 going to their week 6 bye, and they have a home game against the Lions after. Sure, it would make a lot of sense, Dwayne, if we see McCarthy in week 7. You don't draft quarterbacks that high to sit them on the bench the entire year. Okay, it happened with Mahomes. It's happened a few times, but heavy majority, they do get out there sooner rather than later. And once they do, man, he's got the weapons.
Yeah. I mean, McCarthy, I don't doubt McCarthy's playing week 1. I mean, it's Sam Darnold, man. Like, I mean, we've seen it. There's like, there are a few people that still believe in Sam Darnold. You can count me as, not being one.
Not one of them. I just feel like it's almost the ones that do are almost insulting, man. It's like, yeah, we've seen the handful of good throws he's made in his 6-year career at this point. All right. We can't do this with every quarterback. All right. I've made a habit of making quick highlight films for a lot of players. Guess what, guys? You can do it with almost everyone. I don't know if you can do it with Zamir White. Shots fired over there. He really did not have many highlight-worthy plays, but for the heavy majority of NFL talents, you can make a quick little highlight mix for almost anyone. So, okay, I see a player I would love to have here, and then we can talk about why'd I even say that? I'm just jinxing myself. We'll see if Dwayne takes him. Who are you taking, Dwayne? All right, McCaffrey. Damn, all the Washington Commanders. I'm taking a day 3 backup running back. What can go wrong? Braylon Allen, come on down.
Yeah, he was the other guy in my queue.
How did he end up doing in the supermodel, Dwayne? Yeah, okay.
Speed score got him. The speed score got him.
Yeah. He's slow.
He's slow. So it's not ideal.
But he's only 16 years old, so maybe he
I mean, exactly. So he could still get faster. He could also get taller. So
yeah. It does sound like, just the early beat out of, the Jets camp was that Braylon is the clear number 2 behind Brees. So I do think once that becomes, a bit more common knowledge, not that Braylon's going to shoot up into round freaking 7 or anything like that, but, why is Ray Davis going 2+ rounds ahead of Braylon Allen? I think that's a decent area that we could see him going once training camp comes and once we find out a little bit more about it. So currently, let's see, what round are we freaking in? My head is spinning. Round 18 now. I got a 2-6-7-2 build going on with one more tight end. Probably good with Anthony Richardson and Bryce Young. Got some baller wide receivers early. Maybe we round out with 1 or 2 more. Otherwise, just continuing to throw some shots at an RB room that, isn't solid, but that's life when you accordingly are trying to load up on the other positions. Dwayne, meanwhile, has gone, let's see, 2-5-8-2. Obviously had the hero RB with Bijan Robinson in round 1, which I was not able to get. James Conner, Jonathan Brooks, Brian Robinson, Marshawn Lloyd. RB room is looking solid. Also got the good wide receivers. Really, it's just been kind of the quarterback tight end. And I am on the clock. So, Dwayne, how you feeling?
Yeah, okay. I wouldn't normally have 8 wide receivers on a team where I took 5 in the first 6 rounds.
Yeah.
But I tried to set up a backdoor stack with Judy, missed. Tried to set up a backdoor stack with Polk and missed. So, it happens. I'm still fine with the players,
Yeah.
but I was trying to set up the stacks.
Ape Fuzzy, Zamir White's backup. It's probably Alexander Madison. So Amir Abdullah, I think, is going to still be their kind of quasi pass down back. Maybe not full time. He could kind of have the Chase Edmonds role that he has in Tampa Bay right now, where they're technically the RB2, but they're not really the RB2. So if Zamir White goes down, I think it's Alexander Madison who steps up and gets most of kind of the early down work. But Dylan Law might be the guy that you're, heard some good things about. But 6th-round pick, did some, has some good numbers, but when the good numbers came at the University of New Hampshire, I have a bit harder time wrapping my head around it.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're going to draft Dylan Law, it's here. It's in DraftKings where you get 20 rounds. You just get the extra bullets.
Yeah, dude. You don't realize how slim the pickings are until you get in one of these 20 round drafts. I mean, I thought round 18 was rough, but round 19, round 20, things really get messy in a hurry. I was very pleased to find Jalen McMillan still on the board. Gets me my Buccaneers bring back for the Panthers stack and just continue to, with McMillan, not saying he's going to be a star, but anytime you can get a day 2 wide receiver in round 18, man, I don't care who they are, sign me up. Him and Luke McCaffrey. I'm like, not saying, Dwayne, that we were especially high on him, but the NFL was, and the fact that they're still available this late is, certainly intriguing enough for me to throw that late round dart on them.
Yeah, I mean, look, again, once you get to 18, 19, and 20, like you just take your shots. You're trying to correlate if you can to week 17.
Yeah.
But you're also trying to find differentiation. You hear on some of the other sites, scroll down. Well, I mean, you're forced to scroll down.
Yeah.
Over here. So
I was tweeting about how Clyde Edwards-Helaire probably one injury away from being at least a top 20 fantasy RB. And a lot of people are saying he sucks. Why would you draft him? Look at every running back going this range, people. They all suck. Tank Bigsby sucks. Alexander Madison sucks. Like, I'm not denying that CEH sucks, but man, when you get to this point, they suck. So let's go ahead and take the sucky one that happens to be on an offense that doesn't suck. Okay. Keaton Mitchell has one leg
one
right
more
now.
Time.
Keaton Mitchell has one leg, so he sucks. AJ Dillon sucks. They all suck, Dwayne.
They do all suck.
Oh, man. After, I think Braylon Allen, Tyrone Tracy, Bucky Irving, this last kind of tier of rookies is where you can maybe find some less terrible ones. Audric Estime is a good one. That was a good pick right there. What are you doing, Dwayne?
Yeah.
Did you take Zach Ertz last round too? Did that happen?
Yeah, I had to.
You're a madman.
Yeah, my tight end and QB2 situation is pretty gross. the first half of the draft I really like, but just trying to patch things together in the second half.
Jesus, Kareem Hunt's at the top of my tier. That's not good.
Hurry up, get another guy in there.
All right, Rondale, come on down, playing the Cooper Kupp role in Atlanta. Gotta love that. Oh man.
Yeah, Rondale was actually in the top of my queue, and I'm like, I've already got 8 freaking wide receivers. Like, I can't do it again.
Rondale, that was dumb, but it's also round 19, so whatever. But I already had Drake and Algier.
I think round 19, Rondale. Like, name all the other picks in round 19. I think you have the one that's most likely to be in a roll week 1.
Yeah. I mean, again, you just look at
Jalen Tolbert will be the other one. He's obviously battling Jalen Brooks, but yeah.
I have a good last round pick that'll make Josh Norris proud. Diamond Trembles. I actually heard more than Mike Kaye. Kaye. I'm not sure how I pronounced it. Apologies. Yeah. He was on the Roto World podcast, and I caught the end of it, and they were like, who's kind of a sleeper in it? And he was saying that he thinks Carolina wants Tommy Tremble to really take over that, full-time tight end 1 job. So added the caveats that, Ian Thomas could still be involved, but basically said Sanders almost profiles as more of this like kind of big slot, almost like Donald Parham type of wide receiver. Those are, my words with the Parham comp and everything. But, maybe Trumbull is the guy, Dwayne. It's round 20, so I'm going to find out with a Bryce team.
I like it, though. I mean, would there be a better, name to go off in week 17 for the brand? Like we've talked about Tommy Trembles for years. Man.
I'll buy a Tommy.
I'm going to laugh when someone takes him.
Oh, my God. Oh, I saw the blue. Will Dissly. When you can get Will Dissly.
Shots fired.
Okay. Tommy, where's my freaking cue? All right. Tommy Tremble. There we go. Come on down. All right, I at least got my pick round 20 pick off. Last week, I was trying to get a Raiders bring back. I searched for Michael Mayer in the freaking wide receiver tab. So, of course, he didn't pop up. So, at a minimum, I'm finding the guys that I do indeed want to draft. I actually like your last two round picks, Dwain, Will Shipley and Deuce Vaughn. Are they going to do anything? Probably not, but they are two really good examples of guys that you're taking this late where literally, even a small bit of good news in their favor over the next, 6-7 weeks or so could boost their ADP in a hurry.
Yeah. And I think saying that Vaughn isn't going to do anything, I think you definitely say, is Will Shipley going to do anything? Probably not. Mm-hmm. He has Saquon Barkley in front of him. Deuce Vaughn, I don't think we can say that. We have no clue what's going to happen with that.
That's true.
For all we know, what if Deuce Vaughn is actually getting, 40% of the snaps with all the passing down work? Like it could happen.
Starting
slot wide receiver. So like Deuce Vaughn in a 20 rounder, man, I really like him. So, I mean, he's a guy that I've taken several times in DraftKings. It's also full PPR. Like theoretically, if he comes through and like, how does he win? Well, it would probably be in the passing game. He's obviously not going to get 250 carries between the tackles. So you're looking for a guy that can catch some passes. So yeah, I look at that depth chart and I'm like, okay, Ezekiel Elliott, Enrico Dowdle.
Yeah.
And you're telling me we're so sure Deuce Vaughn can't do anything and he can't get better from year 1 to year 2. I think there's a good chance that Deuce Vaughn could carve out a role.
Dwain, you were picking out of the 7 spots, started off at Bijan, and then took 5 straight wide receivers, Nico, Devonta, Tank Dell, Scary Terry, and Keenan Allen. James Conner and Jonathan Brooks really solidify the RB room. Jaden Daniels stacking with Terry McLaurin and many other commanders you ended up getting. Brian Robinson, Benson, Zach Ertz, Luke McCaffrey amongst, I think that was it. Jerry Jeudy, unfortunately couldn't get Watson, coming back to you later. Marshawn Lloyd, Jalen Polk, who you said you were hoping to get Xavier Leggett, just, got a little bit to you there in the hype and madness that streaming and drafting tends to bring. Will Shipley and Deuce Vaughn, who we just talked about. So how you feeling, man? And just, as we kind of round out these drafts, I do like your general idea of, what is one pick that you wish you could have back?
Yeah. I mean, if I go back, it's I don't really have one, to be honest, like, because it's all hindsight stuff, right? When you're trying to set up the backdoor stacks, I guess I could say when I went with Tyler Conklin, I should have went ahead and grabbed Drake May after I had set up Jalen Polk instead of taking Conklin there. But I was in a crunch, right? I needed a QB2. I needed a tight end 2.
Yeah.
And my tight end 1 is very weak with Sanat, like especially for the early part of the season. Now my plan all along was to go ahead and draft Zach Ertz too. I know some people think, oh man, just call your shot. Man, look, it's 20 rounds. Like it could easily be Zach Ertz for the first half of the season and I'm good. And then Ben Sanat for the second half of the season. I really don't care how it works out. I just hope one of them just gets the job and has the job. Right.
Yeah.
So I would say it's probably Conklin. I should have gone Drake May. If I had a second place, it really would have been Leggett over Jalen Polk. Because I have the same bye week, for Drake May, which I was setting up the backdoor stack. And it would have worked out. I would have gotten Leggett and I would have gotten Bryce Young.
You could have even waited until 15-7 to get Bryce, and I wouldn't have been able to do a damn thing about it. So here you there.
Yeah. So,
but hey, man, when the only picks that you really have even a little bit of hesitation about are round 13 plus, I think that means you probably had a pretty decent draft.
Maybe too many commanders, but it was just at a point where there were also the values on the board, like when McCaffrey was sitting there. And Ertz was really also a positional thing, right?
Was there any thought to Vikings wide receiver 3, Brandon Powell?
I had him in the queue.
Hey,
I had him in the queue. The only reason I didn't is structurally, I had already spent, like, these are the decisions you have to make, right? So I already had 5 wide receivers in the first 6 rounds.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of draft capital on wide receivers. I made my bets already. So why try to be correlating just to get that small correlation with JJ McCarthy, really, when my structure told me I needed to take running backs.
Yeah.
I needed to take, even potentially in DraftKings, you could take 4 tight ends, right? I needed to take running backs or tight ends. So I went more with trying to make the structurally sound approach, and I gave up the idea. And look, the other thing I've said with this team is I'm all in on Jaden Daniels and the Commanders.
Yep.
If there's a bet that I've made here, it's that this offense is going nuclear. And if this offense sucks, this team's dead. So that was kind of my thought process.
Hey, if you don't have a last place punishment, which that'd be hilarious if DraftKings did that for these best ball contests. Like if you finish in dead last, we all agree to do some kind of wild punishment. But as far as I know, that does not exist right now. So Dwain shooting for the moon. Love to see it. Your boy was drafted one spot behind Dwain. No, I don't think we had any direct snipes of each other today, which is always good to see. But AJB, Drake London, Malik Neighbors, Michael Pittman through the first four. Would have been good to have Hartitz come to me, but I do love drafting Richardson. So went with Pittman, hoping that Richardson would come back. He did, so that was cool. Got my Neighbors bring back. Also added Josh Downs a little bit later to complete the Colts stack. Aaron Jones here, I was kind of between him and David Montgomery. Just needed a running back at this point. Deontay Johnson, favorite of mine and Dwayne's this offseason. Just continue to think he has one of the higher target ceilings. And at this point, wanted to try to get myself an opportunity to be able to stack up another quarterback later, which we were able to do with Mr. Bryce Young. Jalen Warren, one of my most drafted running backs, second year in a row. Dallas Goedert before the tight end cliff was coming. Austin Eckler, could have been Tajay Spears, just needed, again, another running back at this point. Brandon Cooks as my, kind of Cowboys bring back / I'm just, hey, he's number 2 wide receiver in the league's reigning number 1 ranked scoring offense. Maybe he's not washed just yet. Kendra Miller, Josh Downs, Tyler Algier, Braylon Allen, just some extra RB depth. Talked about Bryce, Noah Fant, and Tommy Tremble rounding out the tight end room. Jalen McMillan as the Buccaneers bring back, and Rondale Moore in round 19. So I'm feeling pretty good, Dwayne. I maybe could have I have 6 running backs. Wouldn't have minded having 7 on this team, but when I looked at the available running backs in round 19, I saw Kareem Hunt at the top, and I was just like, yeah, no, I don't think this is doing anything for me here. So not too shabby in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I like the team that you built. I agree. I probably would have tried to get 7 running backs, just knowing that my first one is Aaron Jones. But I really liked your Jalen Warren pick. Like, you're shooting for the moon there. Honestly, Warren and Brooks were at the top of my queue. So once Sutton went, I knew you couldn't take both because I was taking whichever one you left for me.
Right.
But I mean, when you wait at running back, obviously I've got Bijan anchored, and then I've got an older guy with James Conner. But I'm really trying to, in these builds, get one of Brooks or Warren in that round. And there's a chance, Ian, neither one of those guys work out this year. Yeah. But they're still, in my opinion, the right kind of bet that you're wanting to make, because the upside is so huge that if you do get it right, and that is occurring when you want it to occur towards the end in the fantasy playoffs, imagine a world where Najee Harris is not playing in a game in week 17. And you get to play Jalen Warren.
He's going to be.
Just imagine a world where Jalen Warren takes over the starting job. They did not pick up Najee Harris's 5th-year option. I get it, guys. Arthur Smith's there, and he likes a big back. Well, does he? Bijan's a big back. It's not like Tyler Algier is like way bigger than Bijan Robinson. Yeah. They both qualify as being big enough to get a job done. Yes, he had Derrick Henry. Okay. I mean, Derrick Henry, like, it doesn't matter. You're just playing Derrick Henry. It doesn't matter what coach you are.
Arthur Smith enabled Derrick Henry, bro. He created Derrick Henry.
It's like any coach is playing Derrick Henry. So I just, overall, I think that, like, what we've heard and everything that's happened in Pittsburgh is, like, there's a chance Jalen Warren leads this backfield. Like, that's a scenario. There's an injury scenario to Najee. There's a scenario where Najee just loses grip of the backfield further as the season goes. There's just a lot of ways, man, that Jalen Warren comes through huge. And we want guys that are playmakers that can catch the ball. And, man, I think right now you could argue he's in the top 5 in those categories. The question is, like we saw with Tony Pollard and other guys, like, does that hold up, right, when the volume gets larger? And with Pollard, I think we can argue that it was probably something to do with the tightrope surgery, like, really sapped him. It wasn't just workload, because if that was the case, he would have been,
good in the first half.
Right. He would have been good in the first half. And we kind of had the opposite happen. So I love the Jalen Warren pick. Like, and it's a guy that I think he's my 2nd most drafted running back. Yeah. Where is he on your list?
He's might be number 2 as well. I know Pat Kerrane is very high as well. So when you're doing something that Pat Kerrane's doing, hopefully you can eventually make as much money as that.
Yeah, it's just the archetype, man. Like, it's what you want. So
I would say the one, if again, in hindsight, coming back, I saw Brandon Cooks there. I thought about taking Cooks in round 10, and I just kind of jumped on it. Again, I had my Eagles, so I wanted a Cowboys bring back. Probably shouldn't have prioritized that, though, again, over just kind of some of the running back arguments. So if I had, a chance to get Javonte, Benson, Chase, or Corum, who, went right before that, I think I would have been more willing to jump on them immediately.
I'd be willing to take Dowdle. And aren't you? And you like Gus. Or
Yeah.
Charbonnet. You like Charbonnet.
No,
too.
but
I think you could have clicked any of those.
I should have definitely clicked Charbonnet. That would be the one. So if I could replace Cooks with Charbonnet in hindsight, that would have been the one I could have done. Because
Dowdle gives you the Cowboy bring back and a running back. And we really don't know. Dowdle could be the running back one in Dallas.
When you put it that way, Dwain, now I'm really mad.
Sorry. Let's stop talking in the show.
Oh man, no, that's a great point. So yeah, again, the Brandon Cooks thing, I'm still not completely out on Cooks, but just probably would have been a team where I could have preferred to have 7 running backs. But as always, we will watch the film and get better. And as always, we appreciate you guys watching us for the past hour. Dwain, great stuff as always. You had RB tiers out today, right? You've gotten wide receiver, tight end, and RB. Is quarterback on?
Yeah, I saved quarterback for last. Usually I go the opposite way, but I'd done so much research on those other positions. While for guys, you're going to get something called the utilization score. Just wait, it will be here. So I've done so much research in the offseason between the rookies and between our models and all this stuff around it's been so focused on running back, wide receiver, and tight end because it's just there's so much more predictive stuff. So I was like, that's all fresh in my head. I'm writing those tiers first, and then I'll come back to quarterback. So yeah, next week's
quarterback week coming up. Make sure you guys check out our new and improved Fantasy Life show schedule. 9 a.m. daily starting on Monday. And by daily, I mean Monday through Friday. Let's not get too freaking crazy out here. But going to be a great time. Plenty of Dwain, plenty of your boy. And we're just ready to talk football all day, every day. Because why not? It is a great day to be great after all. So appreciate you guys tuning in. As always, again, code Fantasy Life. If you guys want to go try to make some money on DraftKings yourselves, why the hell not, right? The crown is yours after all. So for Dwain, for producer Matt, I'm Ian. Thanks again for tuning into this Fantasy Life stream. And until next time, take care, everybody.